So Jesus went up to the blind man as the blind man approached him and said, "What is it you want me to do for you?" Many never ask that question. We never ask God. We never say to God, "What is it I want God to do for me?" Often we just go along. The problem with, I think, this story, this Bartimaeus fellow, at least for me, is I'm not blind. I can see you, and you can see me. There could be somebody blind here. God bless you. That's all possible. There are blind people. I get that. But for most of us, 91 of, I don't know. I can see you. Can you see me? You can? Are we awake? Can you see me? Here, I'm kind of moving around up here. I know it's raining out, kind of ugly here early in the morning. But you see, so we can just kind of say, well, that's nice. Jesus cured this guy. That's nice. Well, great, good for him, right? I'm glad for old Bartimaeus. But the question for me is, what about us? Do I see? I see with my eyes. But if I were going to ask God for something today, Lord, that I may see the truth. Lord, that you would cure my moral blindness. I can see, but sometimes I really cannot see. See what? See the truth of the matter. And for this culture, for America, for the West, for our children, many of them are not being trained to see the truth. I'd like to give you a short example this morning of what is just an absolute explosion in this movie of moral blindness. So the movie was about 2 weeks ago, and there's some controversy about this movie. It's called Gosnell. Yeah? No? Some of you have not heard of Gosnell. Thank you. Some have not. Let me go through it just a little bit with you. So Gosnell is this fellow's last name. Gosnell. He's a medical doctor. As we speak today, he's in prison, so pray for him, this medical doctor. He operated an abortion clinic in Philadelphia for years and years and years, 30 years. And he's a medical doctor. And so you get it. To me, the movie points out a moral blindness. Not just for Dr. Gosnell, for a lot of us. So here's this Dr. Gosnell performing thousands of abortions. And he did it, my friends, in Philadelphia, in the city of brotherly love. Please God. He did it openly. He did it without remorse. People knew that he was doing it. And there was really very little backlash, if any at all, from us. He just did it. And what's interesting about Dr. Gosnell and what's presented in the movie, so the movie is the story of this man, this talented man in many ways, a concert pianist. He can play the piano, he can do this, he can do that, he can do everything. He's not a stupid man, he's a talented man. But somehow he's blinded to the truth of the sanctity, the beauty of human life. This is pro-life month, right? Life is sacred. This is the month, we're nearing the end, that all of us should pray that we would be renewed with the notion, with the concept, with the virtue that life is sacred. And we don't have the right to take life willy-nilly. We just don't. Regardless of who tells us, regardless of what the world says, regardless of what the culture preaches, we cannot. And it's very clear in the movie. This man, who had his trial, he was arrested because he had done things that were so bizarre. And he was arrested. And at his trial, at one point, he's kind of looking around. And he says to them, look, to the jurors, I only did what was right. I did the good thing here. So somehow, this medical doctor is confused between the concept of good and evil. And you young people, we cannot be that way. We have to recognize what is the good and what is evil. And this Catholic Church, this great Catholic Church, has been our mother in proclaiming to us that life is sacred and it cannot be taken. For those purposes, it cannot. This man came to be known as America's greatest serial killer. But it was a disturbing thing, and I say it to you this morning, not to bring us down, but for us to recognize that in what we call Respect Life Month, that here in our midst, here was a man doing these things publicly in Philadelphia, and he did it with the blessing of the state of Pennsylvania, with the blessing of the governor, with the blessing of people that knew what was going on. And when I hear that, and I hear us, me and everybody, I'm so willing to point my finger at everybody else and say, well, these were bad guys. But when do I point my finger at myself and say, we knew what was going on, and we did nothing for the most part. I've done nothing. And it is going on in our land. Yesterday, you all know this, huh? Pretty ugly day in America again, right? We're praying in a Jewish synagogue, and somebody comes in, and what if they came in here, I guess, and just killed us because we're Catholic? This is going on in America. I had to ask myself, and apparently this perpetrator, this ugliness again, God, I forgive this man. He's screaming, all Jews must die, or something like that. And if you take it in, you wonder in our minds, how did he get to this point? Maybe he's just mentally ill. I don't know. We don't know. But I suspect, dear friends, that part of this malaise, part of this anger, part of this evil has been put forward by us in a small way. And it begins with the disrespect of human life. That's how it begins. How did it begin in Nazi Germany? How did it begin? Was it just Hitler came on the board and then that was it? It began way before that. Before Hitler, there was already a philosophy in Germany that life is not sacred, that we could we could experiment with life. We could do this and we could do that. Kind of what's happening in America right now and in the West. And then it ultimately ends in these great horrors like yesterday that we can't take in. We just kind of say to ourselves, this can't really be happening, can it? But if you watched any, it was just awful. I go back to this movie, this man, Dr. Gosnell, kind of looked, as I said to you, he looked at them and said, I was only doing what was right. And he got support in that. He was supported in that position by so many. This morning, dear friends, I ask for me and for you and for our children a kind of a renewed respect for the sacredness of all human life. I've fallen short, I know I have. Life is sacred. Your life is sacred. And we need to be people who proclaim that truth. Life is sacred. It comes to us as a gift from God. I am not God. And your life is sacred, and your life is sacred, and all your lives over there, they're sacred from God. And may the Catholic Church always, always preach that message, which it will. That's why we are blessed to be here this morning. Jesus asks you, what do you want me to do for you? Ask him today, Lord. Answer him today, I should say. What is it we want him to do for us? For me this morning, I pray that he would keep instilling in me the notion, this is good, this is evil. Do the good, avoid the evil. And if you stay close to Christ, as we're going to do this morning, as close as communion, he refreshes our soul, he says. He makes it very clear to us what we need to do with love, with some joy, which I have to work on, I get that, with joy, with peace in our hearts, with forgiveness. That's what he does. And then he will say to us, you know, deacon and all you good people of St. Mary's, go your way, for your faith has saved you. Please, God.